Hey, Daniel Brantley here with Argyle Fox. Catherine Talley, thank you so much for joining us and being willing to share your story of how you've been able to get your book in front of school kids by doing school visits. Really means a lot. And before we jump into kind of how you've done that, give us a little bit of info on you. Who's Catherine Talley? And then tell us a little about your two great children's books, Charlotte the Shark Won't Go to Sleep and Charlotte the Shark Goes to the Dentist.
Yes. First of all, thanks for asking me. I hope that it's valuable information I can provide. Um, but my background, so I started writing when I was in third grade. I always like to tell people that I still have my first story and that it's on like that yellow legal pad paper. So anyone else who's left-handed, that's what I wrote on when I was little. So I still have it and it still looks exactly the same, like it hasn't aged. But yeah, so third grade, my oldest daughter's in third grade. So like she is an illustrator. She's not an author, but seeing like that age and how I was writing, it's really cool to like reflect back now. But I always loved like when we had to write essays for school or the essay parts of tests. Like that was my favorite part. Everybody hated it, but I didn't mind. So, actually during COVID, I started writing funny kind of like little poems and limericks
Huh.
just because everybody was so sad. And so I posted some to Facebook and somebody commented and said, you should write a children's book. And I was like, oh, maybe I should write a children's book. So that pops up in my memories sometimes. And that was 2020. So 3 years, almost exactly 3 years later, is when I wrote Charlotte the Shark Won't Go to Sleep. So that's the first one.
Yeah.
This one.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun.
Yes, so that's my first one. And then Charlotte the Shark Goes to the Dentist. That was last October.
Very cool. Fantastic. And when you wrote your books, what were kind of your goals? What did you hope would happen with your books?
For especially for the first one, any parents with kids or young kids especially, I think most of us struggle with our kids not going to sleep. If you have one that goes to sleep, good for you. But I wanted to send like a message that you're not alone. And I think that's why the first book resonates with the parents and the second one kind of resonates more with the kids, I've learned just from asking about it. Um, and yeah, just to see the kids smile and happy and introduce a character that maybe they could relate to. And then I think in the back of any author's goals, we obviously want to sell our books,
Yeah.
not just for money, but just to reach as many people as possible.
Mhm.
So that's always there too.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I imagine that school visits helped you meet both of those goals. Uh,
Absolutely.
and if it has, kind of tell me how.
Yeah. I have gotten to connect with so many more kids. Well, as you know, I now have three of my own. And I coach two of their soccer teams. So all the kids, I mean, I got support from all the kids in on the teams and in their all their classes and everything. So I felt like that's like built in. You know, I they already knew me. So when I actually did my I did a literacy night at my old elementary school from way back when, and though my kids are homeschooled, I mean, we got to tour the school, we got to go to the book fair, we got to do everything that the other kids would do
Cool.
because I knew everybody. You know, I had the support of like our whole community.
Uh,
So it was just really cool to, and you don't realize the connections you're making until later on when somebody refers you, you know, and it comes back around.
yeah, that's cool. And that's great. And that's also good information that if you homeschool your kids, you can still do book
Yes, still
school
go to the book
visits.
fair. Yes.
That's very cool. Now, so let's talk specifics. Kind of how many school visits have you made, and what steps did you take to land those visits? How'd you make it happen?
Yeah, so I would say the biggest thing was I posted in my town's Facebook page. So I was lucky enough. I think I've told you before when my first book came out. I have a pretty good Facebook following. Like I all my friends from work, my husband and I met at work, so we have mutual friends. So all these people support us as a family. So when my book came out, I had a ton of Facebook support already. So then I thought, why not post in, I live in Griffith, Indiana, which I always tell people it's the place in A Christmas Story. They say some clodhopper down in Griffith, Indiana. So we're famous for that. But yeah, we have a Facebook page, Welcome to Griffith, Indiana. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to post there. If anybody, I'll say I'm open for school visits, any teachers or anything. So this was last summer, I would say August. So the second book hadn't come out yet, but I was kind of promoting it. I thought I'll just post in the Griffith page, see if anybody wants to take me up on an offer. And I was pregnant at the time, due in November. So I said, between August and November, like November 1st, I'm like, I'm done. We're not going past that. But anytime until then, I was taking school visits, which just turned into, I think I booked 6 visits from that post. I think over 200 people reacted to it. People tagged other like teachers on it. And that was when I think I booked 6 just from that post alone in my area. They weren't all in Griffith. I would say 3 of them were in Griffith and 3 of them were in neighboring towns.
That's amazing. 6 visits off of a single post on your
Yeah.
town's Facebook page. And most towns, small towns especially, I think large towns
Mm-hmm.
also have a Facebook presence. So that's something
Yes.
anybody could pull off.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
Absolutely.
And you also said something that we don't need to talk about, but I wanted to point out because I always encourage readers when they're doing online marketing. If you already have a Facebook page or Instagram, use that. It's helpful and some people want to set up different accounts, but then you have to
Mm-hmm.
start from scratch and start at
Yes.
zero. If you already have friends and they know you and they love you and they care about you,
Yep.
you already have that connection instead of saying, "Hey, come and join this page also."
Right.
So
Right. That's actually what I did too. I found exactly what you're talking about. I thought, well, let me try Instagram or let me do this, but like you said, it was just doing double the work. So, you can always make a post public or private, and that's a nice thing that they have on there. So, anytime I have anything about my book, I just make it public. People can share that. So,
that's great. That's fantastic. And when you do these school visits, are you going to a single classroom? Are you having like a big group of kids from multiple classes? Do parents ever attend? Who are you interacting with?
yeah. So, one of the ways I booked another visit was my cousin is a preschool teacher. So she got me in at her school, which it in a nearby town, like 15 minutes away. So she got me in at her school, and it was preschooler. So I'd say that was the most chaotic of all my visits. But I think I read 4 different times, and that was about a year ago. So that was before the second one. Actually, I think before I even had it ready to go.
Wow.
So that was for the first book.
And you're saying you read the first book to 4 different audiences, kind of 4
Yes.
different classes of
Yes.
kids. Okay.
Yep. For the preschool, they had like little entire classrooms. So, and they were all next to each other. So I was the one, I just moved room to room.
That's great.
And yeah, they were all similar age preschoolers, but certain classes listened better than others. But yeah, no, it was easy to do. And that is actually, I got an email about 2 weeks later. Some little boy went home and ranted about how much he loved my book. And then his grandma taught at a Montessori school
Okay.
that was about 20 minutes away. And then they passed my info along, and I got another visit just because a little boy went home and told his family how much he loved the book.
Oh my goodness. That's awesome.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah. And now, so that does preschool. When you're doing the elementary, are you doing it with a single classroom usually or?
Yeah, it depends on how the teachers want to do it. Sometimes they want one of my most successful visits was they put a bunch of classes in a gym. So it was I think it was first through third grade, and it was 2 classes each. So it was about 6 different classrooms. They put them in a gym, super organized. I have to say the teacher who did it, she got the books ahead of time, had the names written down. I got there early and signed them to each kid. Yeah. And then they handed them back. They had the student's name, classroom, everything. I signed it. They put them back in the classroom before they even got out of the gym, and they were all ready to pass out.
Oh,
So
that's
that
cool.
was 6 classes in the gym. So if they want to do that and just have one, they put my stuff up. I had a little presentation on a projector,
Mm.
they could do that in the gym for that many kids. Otherwise, I just go to, it depends. A teacher will contact me and say, can you come to my class?
Mhm.
And then maybe they'll bring the other third grade class in and I talk to all of them. But
Yeah.
it's really just however how many teachers want to participate in one visit and how many kids there are. So
Yeah, that's cool. Now tell me, you mentioned that the kids got books and you signed them and stuff. Is this
Mhm.
where the like a flyer went out to the parents and said, this author's coming, this is the cost of her book, and they're pre-ordered
Yes.
that way, or?
Yes. Back to my technology inclined husband, he made a QR code. And I usually just pick Amazon. Obviously, it's available other places, but most people have Amazon. So I usually just put the Amazon link in the QR code. So they'll say, oh, Catherine Talley's coming to visit on this day. And they actually, the bottom half was the form to attach to their book. So the QR code was on top with all the information. They could scan, order it. When it arrived, they could bring it in with their name and teacher's name on it. It was already ready to go. I didn't spell any names wrong. Knock on wood, I still haven't spelled any names wrong and had to fix it yet. So that's been nice. But yeah, I mean, it's trying to get a first or second grader to spell their name if you can't hear them. I'm like, there's different spellings, so it was real. That was like the cleanest visit. Just it was really well organized. And but yeah, the QR codes went home ahead of time.
That's great. And is that typical, or do you sometimes take books with you?
Yeah, I do both, because on occasion not everybody's book maybe came in. There was one mom who messaged my Facebook personally and said, you're coming to her class, and they sent the wrong book. So she was supposed to get my new book off Amazon. It was a completely different book. So she was all upset. I said, just, if you want her to bring cash, that's fine. And I'll bring it for her already signed. And so it worked out that way. But yeah, and I also like to donate a book to whoever had me. I think I read your post on it. Somebody said giving books away, you actually sell more books that way. And I totally agree. So I'll leave one. They could put it in the school library, usually is where it goes. Or if the teacher didn't buy one and really help, I just did a literacy night a couple months ago. The teacher's room I used, she was the sweetest lady and so nice. I said, here, which one do you want? Pick one. She listened to me read it 8 times, so she probably knew it by heart. But yeah, I'm like, that's the way to go. Now, if she ever needs a gift for anyone, maybe that's the first thing she thinks of,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, that's great. And so when you're going, how many books do you usually take with you to the events? And how many do you end up selling?
Yeah, the literacy night I did I've done my old elementary school's literacy night the last 2 years. They've asked me. So it's actually headed by a teacher that was a second grade teacher when I went there. So she's still there, but she's in the literacy department. So she always thinks of me, always asks me. So that one, I know a lot of people there. I think I sold 20 books between the two of
Wow.
them. The book
Yeah.
had just come out. So I think my book came out October 8th. The literacy night was October 9th. So nobody had, yeah, it was perfect. Nobody
Yeah.
had seen the book yet. So, I mean, I sold a lot. I even sold some of the first one too. I made sure I had both, but I sold 20 books that night, between the two of them. And that was a 2-hour literacy night.
Mm.
Um, the one I just did a couple months ago, I sold 10, but it was much smaller scale.
Yeah.
But I thought that was still pretty good. So I usually just have a box. I'll bring 20. Worst case, you keep some in your car and you have to go out. I'd rather have too many than not enough.
Yep.
So I just keep them in the box they were shipped in, and I keep it in my car, and I bring about 15 copies of
Yep.
each.
Perfect. Fantastic. And afterward, do you notice an uptick in online sales? Do you notice that you're selling more books after the events also?
Yeah, I check on Amazon just to see kind of where it's ranked. Obviously when it first comes out, you're really excited to see that, and if you hit number 1 and all that, and then you kind of don't really care for a while. But then
Yeah.
when you go check and you're like, oh, I just did this event, so I have seen it. Because
That's right.
people will ask me, oh, I don't, because I take cash or Venmo or stuff like that, but sometimes people don't have any, older people don't have any of that. So they're like, oh, I want to buy this for my grandson. Is it online? And so I'll kind of just go look. And the one time I did look, after the literacy night, I got my first review from someone who was a dental hygienist. And yeah,
Oh, that's
and he's
great.
like, my daughter came home with this from a local literacy night. I love it. So that was actually even cooler to see. It was like the comments, or the reviews that are left after it too.
Yeah, that's really neat. That's special. And what kind of feedback do you get from the kids? Is there a favorite response that goes through your head whenever you think of these events that some kid said about your book?
Yeah, they all I usually start off with the first one and I say who likes to sleep, and every kid raises their hand and I go, "Guys, no." I said if your parents were here, I think this would look a lot different. And so that's always like kind of how I start off reading the first one, but it's very true. Like it's the same thing every time and I'm like, "Guys, no." But with the older kids, cuz I've done a couple third grade classes, and the publishing process is what holds their interest. Actually, not only do they like the character in the book, but they want to know how I came up with her. They want to know about my Charlotte. And the number one question I keep getting asked is, well, what's the next one? What's she gonna do next? And I'm like, well, I have an idea, guys, but I'm not sure. And they want to see her go to school, and I said, well, my Charlotte doesn't go to school.
That's funny. So the third graders, you don't do you usually present about the publishing process, or is that something that the older kids kind of ask about, and so you go into
They
that?
ask about it. Yeah, it always gets brought up, and I find that really interesting, even just down to how do you find an illustrator? And I ask them, I say, how many of you guys like to read or write? And I said, picking an illustrator, you show a bunch of your work and you hope that they like it. Like that's how you would go about that.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting, the kids who because a lot of young kids like to draw. It's not till you get older that I think you're like, oh, I'm not good at, like me, I'm not good at drawing, but I like to write stuff.
Yeah, that's great. And so, man, so you've had a lot of school visits in a really short amount of time. That's crazy. Six of them in just a couple months. Do you feel that you're getting better at the school visits, kind of handling yourself and knowing what to do and where to be and how many books to have and interacting with the kids? And what do you do differently now that makes the most of the school visits?
Yeah, I think I just get less nervous, obviously, which is helpful. Like anything, the more you do it, you're not going to be as nervous. I have, like I said, kind of, I don't write it down, but I have like a script in my head where, now that I have the second book, I'll say, okay, well, who likes to go to the dentist? And you don't get as many hands for that. I love the dentist personally, but and some kids do. Some kids like the dentist, but I kind of have like a script all in my head about you start to memorize and you start to play off of the kids too. Like I said, third graders, they want to know about how I did it. Then I kind of focus more on that. So it's nice to have different things to talk about with different ages.
Yeah, that's great. And so you do preschool and third up through third grade has been kind of your oldest.
Yeah, so far I'm talking to a teacher now who is fifth grade, and she said, I don't know if my kids will get as much out of it. And I said, well, I can tell you third graders were really interested about the publishing process. So
Yeah.
and she's like, wow, yeah, that's right. So she still wants every kid to get a copy of my book. So she said she's gonna have donors sponsor so that and buy the
Wow.
kids the book. So
That's
I thought
amazing.
that was really cool. Yeah.
That's very cool. That's great. And so you think of all the different aspects of the school visits. What would you say is your favorite part about it? What's the most enjoyable, the best part about getting in front of those kids with your books?
I think how excited they get about the character, like a character I created.
Mm,
They love her automatically, and whether it's because they relate to her or maybe not, um it's just seeing them so happy. And I think reading at all is so important from
mm,
a young age. So whether they're reading the words or just looking at the pictures, I think that's why picture books are important. So just them, like, actually and it holds their attention. They love the illustrations, they love the bright colors.
yeah,
So I think just the fact that these kids enjoy the story is my favorite part.
yeah, that's cool. I think you've given a lot of very concrete things that people can do, authors can do to get in front of kids in schools. But uh, what would you say is the best first step for writers to take who want to book visits with their local schools?
Yeah. I would say start in your own town and branch out. I, for one, if I have a chance to meet any author, I think that's cool. Like, it doesn't matter what they wrote. If there's an author at a local store, I would love to, if I'm able to, like, I'm going to go check them out, because how often do you get, there's so many authors, but how many of us can say we met one in real life?
Mm,
I got to meet a thriller writer, Riley Sager, last June.
cool.
I thought that was the coolest experience. One of my favorite authors. Had to drive 2 hours with screaming kids in the car to go do it. But, like, we did it anyway. And I, got to go. I thought it was the coolest thing. So if there was an opportunity to bring my kids along and have a family thing, like meet an author, that's any kid and adult thinks that's cool. So whether you think it's cool you published a book or not, I can tell you everyone else thinks it's 10 times more amazing than you do.
Yes.
So yeah, start in your town, branch out, and take advantage of social media,
Mm,
because that's one of as much as there's negative things about it, that is one of the positives. Like, you can reach so many people in so little time. And like I said, with one post, 6 visits, and from those 6 visits, who's not to say I booked other one, I booked another one from somebody saying she came to my 3rd grade class. It was great. She should come to your literacy night, see if she's available. And I just happened to be available. So,
that's great.
it spirals, and it's a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fantastic. And so thinking about where you've been, it seems like planning to do more school visits in the future. Are you continuing to spread out and go farther away from your hometown? Are you going to also kind of revisit some of the classrooms you've been to before? Because there's new kids every year, right? You have a new audience
Yes.
built in.
Yeah, for sure. And that's one of the things I thought about too. I was like, well, if I build a rapport with these teachers, then I can keep going back, because they will be different kids. And so that's one of the other reasons, like, leave on a high note, donate a book, and then they're still thinking about it even next year. So I kind of always leave and I say, keep me in mind for future visits. Like, and at my school, my old school's literacy night, that's why they keep having me back, because there are new kids coming in. There's kids that maybe missed it. Last year I had a new book, so it was a great time to come back. So yeah, I always tell them, like, yeah, I'm available for next year. The last literacy night I did, I think it was about half an hour away.
Mm,
So, I mean, I'm not driving. I live near Chicago, so I'm not driving to Chicago for anything right now, but I haven't had to, so that's kind of nice.
yeah,
So, yeah.
that's great. It's very neat. And so beyond school visits, what else are you doing to get your book in front of people?
Yeah, my town has a park that has a storybook walk, and I don't know if that's a thing other towns do
Water
or
coming
not.
out? Mm-hmm. Huh? There's
Um,
no water coming out.
No, we've got,
In their house? Don't go see water?
there we go. Sorry.
that's
That's
okay.
one of your little,
If anything, I get that. Don't worry.
we're doing children's books, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But my town has a storybook walk, and basically it's in one of the playgrounds, like an outdoor park, and each month they will put a story, and it's kind of over a glass case on little pillars, and you walk around the trail and you read the story. So you're walking through the park, and it's on, pages 2 by 2. So Charlotte the Shark Won't Go to Sleep was on there. And I emailed the library who's in charge of it, our local library. And I said, would you guys want to put mine there? So that one's been on there. Then they emailed me a few weeks ago and said, hey, do you want to drop by a copy of your book? We want to I heard you wrote another one. We want to put it on there. So I'm like, yeah, I was going to it was on my list of things to do. I just hadn't done it yet. But, so that's kind of cool. The storybook walk, then they can read it or look at it before they buy it. And if they want to buy it, cool. Like, it gets the word out again. But another thing, a local bookstore, which I think you had recently had a post about getting into local bookstores. Especially, I found that especially useful around Christmas time when people are last minute gift shopping. If you bring your books into a local bookstore and say, hey, would you sell these? Then I posted, hey, it's at this bookstore, brings more traffic to the bookstore. So it's a win-win for like both of us. I did do that. I'm friends with the people. We have a local popcorn shop. So I did an event there during Shark Week. And I think it was only like an hour or so, but I sold 5 copies there, and then people brought their copies in too. And they provided popcorn and juice for the kids, and I read.
Yeah.
So that was a good idea. And then we have a local coffee shop that just opened a new one in the neighboring town, and I know them, and they have a lot more space in the new location. So I was going to ask if they'd do like a meet and greet or author signing too.
Yeah. That's awesome. You're a busy lady. I'm not sure how you do all this with the kids and homeschooling and everything, but
Yeah, I don't know either.
very impressive. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Is there anything about booking these school events that we haven't touched on? Any other information that authors would find useful?
I don't think so. I think just you got to have some confidence in yourself, which ironically I didn't feel like I did, but if you don't promote yourself, nobody else is going to. So the worst they can say, the worst the guy at the bookshop could have said is, "No, I don't have room for your book," and then you move on. So the worst it could have happened is nobody saw my Facebook post, but that's not what happened, and you don't know until you try. So yeah, I just keep putting yourself out there is what I would say, and start locally, and it'll spiral for you.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for your time, Catherine. It's been such a joy talking with you. It's been such a joy getting to work with you and bring your books to life and be part of
Yes.
that.
Thank
Great.
you. I'm glad to have found you.
Yeah, right on. Have a wonderful day.
You too. Thank you.
Mhm.